I know all I need to know about Cam Jordan as a player. And I think I know a lot about Carl Granderson. Everything else is 52 pickup. You got two new defensive tackles, so to speak, now that you brought in. Brian Brzee, they haven't had a defensive tackle like him on this team in the Sean Payton time frame. This big, tall-cut kid, he's athletic, he can run the field well, but you're going to have to move him a little bit because, he's not going to be your regular 4-3 defensive tackle. I don't know anything about how long Peyton Turner can stay on the field. I know when he's healthy, he's really good, but I don't know if he can stay healthy. Isaiah Foskey, I think he may be along with maybe Zach Bond, filling that role that Caden Ellis played up front as a pass rusher. But, Nick, thinking back over the last few years, there are more question marks along the defensive line than I can remember in quite some time.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there at all. I mean, I think there's good potential. And if you're looking at it like optimistically, you can talk yourself into like, oh, the ingredients are there. But a couple things go wrong, and it could be tough to manufacture, pass rush, at least with guys winning one-on-one. I think the one thing that DA's shown us throughout his tenure here is that he's going to find a way to get guys after the quarterback one way or another. But there's easier ways to live than how they lived last year, and everything was basically schemed or, it was on stunts and just design pressures, and there weren't a lot of guys winning one-on-ones, and they need that. I mean, that's just something that has to happen for you to be a good defense. And if you're doing that and you're getting pressures that way, your odds of getting these turnovers that evaded them all last year are much better too. So I think that's my one big area of concern. And then my other one is just I'm still a little bit worried about wide receiver. If Mike Thomas isn't healthy or isn't himself, it gets sting kind of quick, and you're counting on some unknown guys there too. So I think that those are the two spots that I'm still concerned about. Obviously, you can't answer anything about pass rush during this time of year. We aren't seeing anything real, so it's impossible to know what Kalen Saunders is actually going to do this year because they aren't doing anything real in these OTAs. So it's a major watch area for me too.
Now, Nick, you look at OTAs, and obviously they're going to have the mandatory minicamp, then training camp comes about. And then, Coach Allen talks about, DA always talks about, the guys that are here, that's who we're going to coach up. I don't know, maybe he might come on other days like Taysom Hill not being involved. We just signed with Jesse James, not the outlaw, but to play the tight end position. But tell me if you agree with this and all. I think Taysom Hill, considering that his touches aren't going down, he'll have 100+, however they utilize him. So, I told Mike I'm going to ask him, Coach Allen, a question on Tuesday when we get the media, we get to go watch the last OTA before mandatory minicamp, is that what meeting room is Taysom Hill going to be in? I think because he's so familiar with the offense and he's played quarterback and tight end, he's in the running back room. Does that make sense? That Taysom Hill, even though we still utilize him maybe the same way, but not necessarily in the tight end room, but more in those meetings with the running backs.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to use him the way they used him last year, I think that makes a whole lot more sense, actually. I don't see the need for him to be in that role if these guys hit and they stick around. So it does feel like that's probably where he's going to be best utilized. It felt like if I had to pick a position for him, you're telling me to label him based on what he did last year. Like, running back fits more to me than tight end, and yeah, I think it's a fascinating thing. I think it probably should shift a little bit more that way. And I think if you look at him that way, it's probably more freeing, and you're probably going to get the best use of him. I mean, if he's going to average 5 yards per carry and he's kind of like moonlight, and then he's spending his time studying somewhere else, can he be even better and more consistent if he's actually spending his time looking at the field as a running back? That's a fascinating thought. I hadn't considered it, and
right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's where I would put him. I think you get the most out of him in that role.
Nick, one of the things we've talked about this verbatim on this show over the last couple of years, the offensive line, and I think it's a combination of injuries and disappointment with players. You've spent so much draft capital, and you got money tied up in players all across the board. 4 of your 5 starters are former first-round picks. Your starting center, you gave up a first-round pick to get him and picked him in round 2. Depth has to be a concern there because I did this study a couple years back, but it still holds true. The two most injured positions out on the football field, college and NFL, it's not even close, is tackle and guard. And we've seen the downgrade every time this team has, if Andrews Pete goes down or if it's McCoy that goes down. And then, we went through the situation with Armstead, and he was a great player, but he always missed time. And now you've got the situation with Trevor Penning, and maybe it's bad luck, okay, with the foot injuries. But that, to me, is always a concern because your sixth and seventh man, you might say, them guys just backups. You know what? Them backups are going to have to start for you somewhere during the season.
Look at the guys that were out there in the last practice. You're going left to right, Landon Young, Lewis Kidd, Eric McCoy, Throckmorton, and Storm Norton. I mean, that's just – it's insane that we're having to watch these guys practice with as Mike said, everything they've invested in the offensive line. And I mean, that should be the most solid spot on the team on a year-to-year over basis. And look, I'm not sold on Cesar Ruiz yet. He might be good this season. I think that he probably got overhyped a little bit last year because we were just all happy to see him reach like a competent level from where he was, and he looked salvageable,
right,
last year. But I'm not necessarily sold that continues. Like I need to see it, and I need to see how he comes back from this foot injury to be totally confident in him. And it's tough to be confident in Trevor Penning right now too. Like this just might be bad
we don't know.
Career. Yeah, and look, the guy they just drafted too is already hurt. Nick Solidari has a captain.
I like him,
I mean,
Nick. I like him, Nick. I think.
But
he's
yeah,
good.
I'm hurt. What is calf?
Calf
or what?
injury.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, calf. Yeah. But no, I like him too, man. And just the way he talks, he seems really smart. He seems to understand everything.
Nick, one of the things we got kind of spoiled was at the safety position. We had Malcolm Jenkins, and Marcus Williams was a really good player, and then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
And even before that, then even Von Bell. That's what I want to see, like Mike said.
That combination of Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu, it started to kind of get together late in the year. But, okay, now what happens if something happens injury-wise to one of those guys? But we didn't see quite the one-on-one type. I know what you're going to do because communications is so huge in the NFL. I think some people don't get it. Well, we didn't do that in high school. Well, no. You're talking about high school in the NFL. It's totally different. That part of their team, to me, can make a big jump now because May and Mathieu got a year under their belt.
Well, and along those lines, Nick, when you're going to comment, listen, some people might hate me. I'm going to tell it like I see it. Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins, how they played together, head and shoulders above Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu. And listen, I love the Honey Badger. What? He's one of the greatest LSU players ever. And what he did throughout his career, now they came together on the back end. But it's like, they can't hold their jock. Let me tell you, you don't appreciate somebody till they're not there. But Marcus Williams, or what Malcolm Jenkins did,
and C.D. Deuce, what he brought to the table,
exactly. So
on the field,
but where are we going to be for 2023 in that regard, considering the contribution of those players?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think Williams and Jenkins were definitely it was better. Like they just had more production. I think the missed time though is probably something that was an issue last year. I think those guys played like 6 games together. And
right.
I think it does matter with the chemistry and everything. And I was talking to Tyrann recently, like he was just breaking it down. Like, hey, look, like we were playing coverages I've never played before. Like it just took me a while to get comfortable with them. So I think this year's probably a better gauge, but the bar is extremely high. Like Marcus Williams was a really, really good player. I know Saints fans didn't necessarily like him or appreciate him, but he was a difference maker, and I think losing him was a huge deal. Malcolm, just as smart as can be, just unbelievably,
right.
With the anticipation and everything, the leadership, the communication, I think they missed that a little bit last year. So I think they do just need to, they got to get together. They got to start playing. They got to be healthy. They got to be on the field. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot that they got to try to put together to match that level.